Okay, where are we? Let me start over with soccer. Now that she's got the video back. Just kidding. All right, here's what we're doing. We are starting a new series this week. We don't know how long, anytime we're doing something new. Who knows how many weeks this is going to be?
Do you see what time it is?
Oh my goodness. All right, we got to move. All right, so I'm going to introduce this. Well, actually, we're not even going to introduce the series yet. We're going to do what Meredith was supposed to do last week and technical difficulties did not allow. And then we'll introduce the new series. While you do your deal.
Okay. I'm just going to briefly kind of hit the highlights of last week just so I can share with y'all what we missed. Just reminding you, really, because this is something that we're hitting with these topics, we're going to hit what's going on in the world today and how we as Christians can engage the culture. And so one of those topics is abortion. So this is really our first topic.
Which that was not planned, but it worked.
It worked out, yeah. So the number one cause of death worldwide, we talked about in 2021, is abortion, with 42.6 million abortions in 2021 worldwide. And the statistics that y'all saw that I posted, it hits more than the 13 million communicable diseases, 8.2 million cancer deaths, 5 million smoking deaths, 3.5 million COVID-19 deaths. But we're so focused on that. That's only 3.5 million versus 42.6 million abortions. 1.7 million HIV/AIDS, 2.5 million alcohol. So again, 58% of all cancer deaths or everything else, 42% abortion. So I was going to hit the highlights of the development.
You missed all our soccer, exciting soccer story, and our.
But I made it.
You made it.
That was my goal.
We literally just now started. She's redoing last week because of our technical difficulties first.
Yeah, it takes three.
And I'll update you on soccer after.
Appreciate it.
You might control the volume here.
That's pretty good.
This is actually a training video for stenography. 5 to 9 weeks gestation. Many of you have seen this video before on yourself. Gestational sac, there's that little fetal pole, and you can see the flickering little heartbeat. And this is like with a missed cycle, 5 weeks. The embryo's growing. External features begin to form. The baby's brain, spinal cord, and heart begin to develop. 6 weeks, arm and leg buds are starting to grow. The baby's brain forms in 5 different areas. Some cranial nerves are visible. This is the little fetal pole and the little yolk sac, and this is in the uterus gestational sac.
So just imagine how great last week would have been.
You can see this little heartbeat. I mean, it's just amazing. This is like 6-7 weeks old. The baby's heart continues to grow and now beats at a regular rhythm. And they're showing their high definition ultrasound, basically. This is a training video to use their equipment. And so they're gonna show you how good their picture is, but this is what we're seeing at 5, 6, 7 weeks gestation.
Meredith, I mean, when our children were coming along, we got pictures, but nothing like that. How long, where is it, it's coming, you could see the heartbeat at that early of an age? Is that fairly new?
That's common now. And this is the M mode, like they're doing Doppler of the heart rate, so you can calculate, they're showing you the calculated heart rate.
Wow.
160 beats per minute, which, the baby's heart rate is higher than ours, so we're like 90 beats per minute. They're like 160, 150 beats per minute. This is a big version of what you saw, really magnified, 8 weeks. This is crown rump, head, heart, bottom, and little buds, little limb buds. This is like the head area. And you can see they just zoomed in on it for you. Now this picture is really, really good, like fine equipment, but this is what you can see now. 9 weeks along, arms and elbows develop, baby's toes can be seen. You said he was a little limbo at the head. And when you say 9 weeks, again, that's basically 5 weeks, 7 weeks from fertilization.
So what does it mean when that thing kind of moves, like that the area kind of goes in and out? Like what is that doing?
It's like a slice of the baby. You go in and out, depth-wise and side to side. They got all kinds
Yeah,
of.
since we're looking at a 2D vision of a 3D image, so this is switching to the 3D mode, and that's why it looks different here. Like the first screen that you saw was just a 2D image, and there are 3D images now, and where they actually show you, anyway, all of that. So our Mississippi bill is not terminating a pregnancy after 15 weeks.
That's what you were just saying, 5 and 6.
This is like, you know, missed cycle. A lady's missed cycle, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. We just went up through that. So it's just showing you what our technology is basically has brought us a lot further than where we were in the 1970s when Roe v. Wade was shown. So now I was going to show you, this is Ray Bonberger, and he's the guy that has started a foundation for Right to Life, basically a Right to Life kind of foundation. And his whole life is that his birth mother was raped, and she chose to continue to carry him to term and then put him up for adoption. And he has this couple that had 3 natural born children and then adopted like 10 more, I think like 15 total.
I think they had 5 and adopted
Yeah,
kids, and had
something-
15 total.
Yeah, 15 total.
Can you imagine?
No.
And they are mixed race. He's African American mixed, and then there's like a Korean child, and anyway, it's incredible. Special
But
needs.
just think about this, the vast majority of people in his situation would have been aborted. The vast majority.
And that's what his platform is really, is
The title is, what is it?
I was conceived and raped, but I was adopted in love.
Conceived
I
and
grew up in a
raped,
truly
adopted
diverse
in
family
love.
of 15, where 10 of us were adopted, many of us rescued from the violence of abortion. We're white, black, mixed, Native American, Vietnamese, able, disabled family.
He's talking about his own
Despite the
15
rugged
kids.
circumstances most of us came from, none of us would have been better off dead. We were all better off loved. I'm the 1% that choose to justify 100% of abortions, but the circumstances of our conception don't change the condition of our worth. My birth mom's courageous decision will continue to unleash beautiful reverberations for generations. Today I'm also the father of 4 kiddos, 2 of whom are also adopted. It's why I fight for the most marginalized, the most vulnerable, and the most discarded. No group of humans is harder hit by the social injustice of abortion than Black lives. According to the CDC, abortion rates among Black women is 3.6 times higher than the majority population. Despite people of my complexion comprising about 13% of the population, 38.4% of all abortions are committed on Black lives, the largest percentage of all racial and ethnic groups. Roe is constantly heralded by the left as empowering women, but exploitation is not empowerment. Overturning Roe, or as I like to say, equalizing all humans, is the civil rights fight of our day. Pro-abortion activists criticizing the passage of pro-life legislation, laws that recognize the humanity and inherent worth of an entire group of people, is like segregationists lamenting civil rights bills. In 2018, for every 1,000 Black babies born alive, there were 1,226 aborted in the borough of Manhattan. This is where Planned Parenthood is headquartered, a ratio 4 times higher than whites and over 2 times higher than Hispanics. Yet pro-abortion activist groups like Guttmacher argue that there is, quote, a lack of access among Black and brown people. How many more Black lives should be aborted? There's no lack of access. There's obviously abundant access to the violence that solves no social issue, gives no one equality, and ushers more deaths into communities already disproportionately plagued by violence.
So, one more, sorry. This is
Please welcome our keynote speaker, Ryan Bonberger.
he gave a tribute, he gave a talk, and I just happened to come across it. And at the end of the talk, he he said he made a video that was a tribute to his birth mother. He's never found her.
He's not been able to find his
And
purpose.
what he said is what we're talking about. How do we engage the culture? How do we speak the truth in love? And he's telling you, I am the reason to save those aborted babies. I am the reason to speak up for pro-life because my life matters, and there are reverberations down the line to his own children, two that he adopted and two natural. And he made a video for his mom saying, this is what you said, the life that you saved.
And these are the reverberations, which you'll see
Right.
on the videos, what's popping up are his accomplishments and what he's proud of.
And so I created this tribute to my birth mom, hoping one day maybe she'll actually be able to see this. All because of her singular decision, the beautiful reverberations that have been caused, that have emanated from that decision. And so this is what I came up with. You couldn't see.
He wrote the song also.
And he wrote the song.
It wasn't part of your plan. Stronger than your circumstance, you gave my life a chance. Touching the future before it began. You're the reason I am here. I know deep down your soul. My life has purpose. I know deep down in my soul. My life has purpose.
Y'all, that just kills me. That puts a face on the greatest, probably the greatest genocide worldwide the world has ever seen. That's what abortion is. That puts a face on it. That just kills me.
On top of the fact that that's the argument they used for like the 1% that conceive and rape or some kind of other horrible
Right.
circumstance, is that's the argument for 100% of abortions. It's ironic that if you go and look at the numbers of the ones the cases that are conceived in rape, it's actually a majority of those people actually choose to let the baby go to term and like go to abortion or whatever the case
Wow.
may be. So it's like the arguments they're making are not even
They're not
accurate.
real arguments.
Even within the cases they're trying to quote.
Yeah.
Stacy, will you slip the light? So this is, why we came back around to this again, because we wanted to say this is, like the story I told about Dr. Futrell last week, the head of the Baptist building, the head of Baptist, Mississippi
The
Baptist
face of-
Convention.
yes.
He took the time to write this pro-choice activist who had all these questions. He took the time to write her and speak the truth to her in love. And that's the burden that Joel and I have had is all these topics. We have children in the youth group. We have a college student. We have kids that are saying, this is what is posted on our social media, you know, whether it be abortion, whether it be Black Lives Matter, or what else? I'm hitting all the topics, but
Oh yeah, we'll get that one.
but anyway,
Keep moving.
our theme really is, how do we as Christian warriors engage the culture in a loving but still speaking the truth in love way? And so that's where we're going next. And we wanted to start with the Great Commission, Matthew 28. Matthew 28, 18 through 20. This is our mission, right? We always come back to this.
If you're the first series we did was 3 weeks, and it's what is the mission and battle plan? And we just always keep coming back to this to remind us what is the mission.
Then Jesus came up and said to them, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And remember, I am with you always to the end of the age.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's it. Now here's
I want to stress this hard but quickly because we want to get through today. All right. Now, you just heard the Great Commission. The problem with hearing the Great Commission is, especially as Baptists, if you've been in the Baptist circles forever, you've heard that a billion times. And so it's just so easy. Got that. I know we're supposed to go on a mission trip at least once in our life. It's kind of how we interpret the Great Commission. But so please hear this. You have one and only job. That is the only job you have. That's the problem in our culture today. Even within the church, even within Christians, they give you a ton of jobs. They are not the job. Your Savior, the one who you put your faith in, who you are counting on for your resurrection, gave you one job, and it is to go to the nations everywhere, starting with where you are, and to make disciples. That is it. There is no other job. Anything else is a distraction. It is not where you work. It's not even the good things you do. That is the only job that you're saying. I keep stressing it because it's important. We have to understand that is we have one job, the only job. That's it. All right, so you have one job and only job, make disciples, not just converts, by the way. Converts are what Muslims do. If you will just say you're Muslim pillars, you're considered converted, done, got us a Muslim. We don't make converts. You are to make disciples. Converts are not disciples. Yeah, you start as a convert, but we're to make disciples. Okay, you are, this is kind of interesting, you are the tool and the weapon God is using to reverse Babel. So we're kind of tying in things we've done over the last several months. So I'm going to say that again. You're both the tool. God, Jesus Christ, is using you as a tool and as a weapon for that single job and that single purpose. All right? The mission will not change until the fullness of the Gentiles comes in and the Messiah, Jesus Christ, returns. We're pushing 2,000 years right now. We don't know when this time period would end, but for this dispensation, for this time period, mission will not change until that day happens. Okay? Do not get distracted. Okay? To be a part of God's kingdom, there's only one thing you must believe. That is faith in the Messiah. We know that. But to be a part of Satan's kingdom, you can believe millions of other things, or nothing at all. So think about that. To be a part of God's kingdom, there's one thing, and that has to be communicated clearly so that you can put your faith there. One thing and one thing only for you to believe. That you can believe millions upon millions of theories and psychology and beliefs, anything or nothing at all to be a part of his kingdom. So who has the easier job? We have a hard job. Satan has a wonderful job. He couldn't care less if you believe in him as long as you don't believe the one thing. So I'm stressing this hard today because it's the Great Commission and it's the one thing. Okay. Satan's job is much easier. Jesus said, now we're going to shift just a little bit. Well, not quite. Let's read what Jesus says. Matthew 7. So this is words from him, from Jesus himself. Matthew 7, 13 through 20.
Enter through the narrow gate, because the gate is wide and the way is spacious that leads to destruction.
What does that sound like, by the way? Think our culture. It's a big, wide gate, and lots of people walk, including inside the church, walk right down that gate.
The gate is wide and the way is spacious that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. How narrow is the gate and difficult the way that leads to life, and there are few who find it.
Do you hear that word, difficult? How difficult is that way? Just kind of throw those words in your mind.
Watch out for false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are voracious wolves. You will recognize them by their fruit. Grapes are not gathered from the thorns, or figs from thistles, are they? In the same way.
How do you recognize the false prophets? By their fruits, by their actions.
In the same way, every good tree bears good fruit, but the bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree is not able to bear bad fruit, nor a bad tree to bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So then, you will recognize them by their fruit.
All right, so that was Jesus. Narrow is the way, difficult is the way. Every time you operate in the Spirit, listen to this, all these little all these little tidbits in there, listen to it. Think about it. Every time you operate in the Spirit and image God accurately to an unbelieving world, you are rattling the very gates of hell itself. let that sink in. We talked about this a few weeks ago where what freaks Satan out is every single time a person gives their life to Jesus Christ, because he knows the fullness of the Gentiles. That's what he's looking for. He's done when that fullness of the Gentiles comes in. And every single time we have a baptism in our church, or you hear about something happening at City Church, and somebody gives their lives to Christ, it literally rattles the gates of hell, because he knows he's one step closer. That's why deception is so important. All right, so I'm going to read that again. Every time you operate in the Spirit and image God accurately to an unbeliever, and in image God, I don't mean every time you just make the convert, or every time you make a disciple. Just when you image God, meaning when you're salt and light in the world, when you represent something different than everything else the culture sees. Because your job, yes, our primary job, or our job is to make disciples. And while we're here, we're doing that by being salt and light, representing Him. Every time you represent Him, it's a tiny, incredibly imperfect vision of what we'll ultimately have, which is the return of Eden to the earth. And you image that when you love your neighbor, when you give that cup of water, when you reach out in His name in love, showing them, whoever them is, whoever they are, showing them who He is, or what that kingdom is going to ultimately look like. You literally represent tiny little pieces of Eden. That's what the church is, until one day that's fully restored again, which John tells us about in Revelation. So anyway, so think about that's what your job is. It's an amazing job. It is so cool. And I'm just in our older age, kind of where we are now, I'm just now realizing all of that, how that we really do have a mission, and that it is incredibly important, and our value and our worth is so wrapped up in that, and so not wrapped up in all the things we think it is. Anyway,
It makes you look at your fellow worker, or your friend, or your neighbor totally differently.
because you have one job.
Yeah.
One job, bring them in.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I get all fired up about that. Okay, now let's flip for a second. I was telling you to listen to Jesus. The way is difficult. It's hard. Here's the great lie. The great lie. Jesus is love. Now, if I stop there and he goes and reports that over to the building next door, I'm done. But the lie, what culture will tell you, even a lot of the church will tell you this. Jesus is love, and you should do whatever it takes to show love and live at peace. Now, I just kind of came up this, there's probably a better way to say all that, but think about that. You're told this constantly. You're told this in the secular area. You're told this in musicians. Every time a singer gets on TV, you're told how you're supposed to love everybody and show me. And within the church, a lot of our churches that water down a lot of the doctrine, that's what you're told. That's why you're seeing half of the church accepting gay marriages and stuff now, because aren't we supposed to show love? Okay?
Y'all remember this bumper sticker?
Mm-hmm.
It's been around for a long time, since the 60s.
Coexist.
I was just about to say, that sounds like the hippie movement.
Yeah.
Remember
The
they do
hippie
the
movement, the subculture.
They do the cross, they do the Muslim crescent moon, the bumper sticker, I can't draw it, but coexist.
We have a whole study on coexist.
Yeah.
We did a long time ago. So where was I? Okay, so here's the lie. Jesus is love, and you should do whatever it takes to show love and live at peace. You should be living at peace. You should strive for your best life now. You should live in peace with your neighbors, at peace with all your coworkers, at peace with everyone, and live your best life now. That is a lie. That is not true. That is not imaging Jesus Christ. Is to love your neighbor the way the culture defines love. We'll do that another day. Is truly give you a good definition of what love actually is. But the way we generally understand love in the culture, that is a lie. That is not what Jesus called you to do. We're going to show you that.
Read that next sentence.
That is a lie. That's it right there. That is a lie. Not true. Listen to Jesus himself. And again, I keep saying that these are his words. These aren't Paul's. Not that there's anything wrong with Paul's. These are Jesus' words.
So
Matthew 10.
Jesus has just called his disciples, his apostles, his 12, and he, in verse 10, chapter 10 of Matthew, verse 1, he called his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits so they could cast them out and heal every kind of disease and sickness.
So what he just did is he just equipped these 12 people to be his imagers. That's what those sent. If you read the rest passage around that, he's got them and he equipped them and then he sent them out.
And then this is what he tells them in verse 34. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth.
Pause right there. That's why that's a lie. Jesus did not come to bring peace. That is a lie. He did not.
Do not think I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's enemies will be the members of his household.
Kids, this is Jesus himself. I'm not just love. That is a lie. He came to divide and to separate. He came to clearly give you a choice between two kingdoms. That's what your mission is. That's what his mission was.
And he tells you it might even be in
And
your
a
own
perversion
household.
of that is what you're getting in the church a lot today.
Right.
Which is why we're growing up an entire generation that has no earthly idea how to image Christ or react to these issues. Because they've been told a lie about love and a lie about the New Testament. All right.
And what Jesus said.
Yes.
So in your own household, he says, whoever loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it. And whoever loses his life because of me will find it.
So he's talking about death. He's talking about misery. He's talking about division within your family. I mean, that's a different, and that's his words. That's a different picture than what you're told Jesus is. And you're told to focus on one attribute of his. You want to say something? I can feel it. I can see it.
Love is not blind acceptance.
It is not. But culture tells you it is. And specific, and a lot of the church will tell you that you're not loving if you don't blind. And that's kind of where we are right now in this first week or this introduction, is we want to give you a strong definition that your cultural understanding of love is not reality. And all you gotta do is read Jesus' words. Okay, get me back on the notes. I'm looking at the time, we're good. All right, hold on, we got a video.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not gonna. Oh yeah. Jesus calls you to battle for his name and to represent his kingdom to a dead world. Your Christian life, I like this right here. I like this. That's very self-serving. I like this because I wrote it. I like this. All right, your Christian life is a battle full of conflict, strife, spiritual warfare, injuries, and maybe even death. That is so uplifting. Y'all should live your best life now, Joel Osteen. No, I'm gonna read that again. You like that? Your Christian life is a battle full of conflict, strife, spiritual warfare, injuries, and maybe even death. That's the real picture of what Jesus has called you to. He's called you to die. That's what he's called you to do. Okay, doesn't sound all that peaceful, does it? Okay, if you stand for Christ, it is not peace you will have. Okay, what does standing for Christ in this culture look like? Matthew 5:13-16.
Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its flavor, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled on by people. You are the light of the world. A city located on a hill cannot be hidden. People do not light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before people, so that they can see your good deeds and give honor to your Father in heaven.
And like you're saying, blind acceptance is not shining any light. It's building you. You look just like everybody else. All right. Let's see.
Do you want to introduce that?
Here's how to cancel a subscription with Truebill.
Let's see, Jim.
Open the app.
This is video, 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Why I Stand, Orlando Magic, Jonathan Isaac. Yeah, you like that? Jonathan Isaac from the Orlando Magic.
Basically, we have two videos that we're going to show you of people that are standing in this world.
Yeah, we gotta get that second one.
Say this is what it looks like to stand for Christ.
This 23-year-old starting forward is deeply religious and proudly unvaccinated.
The hole in Jonathan Isaac's logic is it's solely about him.
On Friday, Isaac got attention for choosing not to kneel in unison with his teammates or to wear a Black Lives Matter shirt.
It's really not a good look when you see all your teammates and coaches doing one thing and you're doing another?
The moment was very hectic, but at the same time I had peace. I knew what I was standing for was dear to me. I knew that, that to me that Jesus was the answer for everything that we see in the world. And I decided to stand on it, and not everybody agreed with it. My name is Jonathan Isaac. I play for the Orlando Magic, and I'm writing a book with the Daily Wire. The feeling of most people was that because other people did it, they almost had to, or they would automatically be seen as going against the movement. But I rejected that notion. I felt like, to kneel and wear Black Lives Matter t-shirt don't go hand in hand with the support of Black lives. The vaccine status of every person should be their own choice, completely up to them, without bullying, without being pressured, without being forced into doing so. The press conference is only significant because right before it, there was an article by the Rolling Stone that completely mischaracterized and misrepresented my position on the vaccine itself and the vaccine mandate. This last year has given me the opportunity to showcase how Christ has changed my courage, my belief level, and who I am as a person and as a man. I am writing a book of my life, of how my relationship with Christ has transformed every single thing about me. From a young kid who struggled with fear, anxiety, self-insecurity, to a man willing to stand for what he believes in. I think this book is for everyone, to be honest. I think with me being an African-American male, I think there is a pathway to people who disagree with me on Black Lives Matter issues and the vaccine issues even, to hear me out, to hear my heartfelt reason of why I believe that Jesus is the answer because of what he's done in my life. And so people who are Christians, people who may lean to one political aisle or the other, I think can have great insight about, just who Jonathan Isaac is, why he made his decision, and what went into it. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. And in today's day, there are so many things that you can be afraid of facing because of believing what you believe or deciding to stand for what you believe in. And I believe this book gives you a blueprint of my story of how Christ has made the difference in my life.
Why I stand. Believe it or not, I used to be that tall a while back. Now, why I stand. Thank you, Jonathan Isaac.
Yes, I just point to the fact that every word, every sentence, he brings back to Christ. Yeah, he's speaking the truth in love. He's telling you, I stand for Christ. I stand for Christ. Why I stand for Christ. He doesn't bash people that kneel for Black Lives Matter. He says, I stand for Christ. It's awesome. It's so awesome.
The media has no idea what to do with him.
Yeah, they have no idea.
That's right.
Because he breaks every class, every victim class he represents, but he's outside of it. He drives him crazy.
Isn't that when Jesus went in there and, Potiphar was his name? I'm really bad at names. He was like, I don't know where to categorize you. You're not, you didn't do anything, So it's kind of like, the world doesn't know what to do with you.
So this is another person that the world doesn't know what to do with.
This video is awesome. This is about 10 minutes, but this is pretty cool.
This lady was an atheist, grew up as an atheist, and she came to Christ. And I want you to look at her.
She's Jewish who grew up as an atheist who then came to Christ. Which, by the way, this is from PragerU, which we love PragerU. And of course, he's Jewish. He's not Christian, but he loves Christians. And this is a massive Christian message on Prager University, in a sense, Jewish website. It's amazing.
And she basically is using her story on PragerU to share her testimony. And I want you to look at her and think about the people that you encounter every day that may be angry, that may be atheists, that may be hurting, that may have purple hair and tattoos, and look at them and say, they have, what she says, I'll use her words, a God-sized hole in their hearts. And you have the answer. Just remember that when you encounter them in your schools, in your work, and everything you do. There are people with God-sized holes in their hearts, and we have the answer to that.
Purple hair and tattoos.
Exactly. Nothing against purple hair and tattoos. Nothing against that. In fact, she's going to debunk that whole theory.
I had this God-sized hole in my heart. I was trying to fill it with other things and just leaving chaos in my wake. My name is Adrian Johnson, and this is my story. I was raised by two loving loving, secular Jewish parents. When they had me, they decided to start going to temple, to synagogue, because they were both Jewish, even though they really didn't practice any religion. And when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I came to my parents and I said, I don't understand why I have to go to temple to learn about fairy tales. I thought that these stories about Adam and Eve and Noah's Ark and the parting of the Red Sea were just completely made up. So they pulled me out and we stopped going. We stopped being members of the temple. We didn't have God. We didn't have religion. We didn't really have a whole lot of moral structure or guidelines. From a young age, because I didn't have God, I know it may sound cliche, but I had this God-sized hole in my heart. And so I was trying to fill it with other things. And by the time I became 11, 12 years old, those other things that I was trying to fill that void with were being cool and being popular. And that meant drinking and doing drugs and getting piercings and getting tattoos and starting to be sexual with boys. So my parents, they pretty much let me do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And when I was 14, 15, 16, that seemed pretty great to me. I was having the time of my life. I didn't realize until much, much later how much damage that was doing to me. So I didn't know anything about politics until I got to college. I did not care about politics when I was in high school. All I cared about in middle school and high school was having fun, being popular, drinking, drugs. When I got to college, I really wanted to have intellectual discussions with my professors and my peers. I decided that I wanted to be a sociology major. I wanted to learn about trends and demographics and how society functioned. I had no idea that sociology is really just the study of 3 words: racism, sexism, and oppression. If you just repeat those 3 words over and over again, you'll ace sociology. My professors would say things like, America is founded on racism. And I would sit in the class and I would go, I don't think that's right, but if I don't think that's true, then what is it that I believe? And so I had to go do my own research. So now I had both sides of an argument, and I started learning about, this is what it means to be on the left, this is what it is to be liberal, this is what it is to be conservative, this is what it means to be libertarian. Oh, okay, well in that case, I guess I'm a libertarian conservative. So when I was a senior, I got to pick whatever topic I wanted to study for an entire year. So I picked to study the topic, the liberal bias in academia. My professor was not happy about that. I was the only student in my program who was denied funding. All of the other students were given grants from the university and they had very liberal topics. They were very confused by me because when I was a senior at UC Santa Barbara, I had spiked purple hair, I had a tongue ring, I had tattoos, and I would open my mouth and loudly defend capitalism and, you know, be a libertarian and say I'm a conservative, and they would look at me and they would go, you don't look like a conservative. And I would say, well, what am I supposed to look like? Am I supposed to have a tennis racket and a pair of golf clubs and a polo shirt? You know, I didn't understand why I couldn't look the way that I did and still be a conservative. I then went to graduate school and I met my ex-husband. After my ex-husband and I got married, I thought that that would make me happy. I was still always trying to fill this void. I thought that he could complete me and make me whole and make me happy, and he couldn't because no one can. I didn't have that realization at the time, unfortunately. I just thought, oh, well, I'm with the wrong person. So if I find another person, then he'll complete me and he'll make me happy and he'll make me whole. I was unfaithful in my marriage. My destructive behavior caused my ex-husband to say, I cannot let you do this to me anymore and I'm leaving you. And then I hit rock bottom. What have I done? I just threw away my entire life. All I did was cry and say, it's so hard, I'm in so much pain, and I just want someone to save me. But nobody could. After years of playing a victim, of being in therapy, of taking medication, of complaining, but never actually taking ownership for my life, I realized, oh, I have to do something different in order to make a change. I started going to self-help groups for people who struggled with sex and love addiction. There was really no other alternative. So I went to these meetings, I went to these groups, and I asked for help. I met someone there who was willing to sort of take me on and be a mentor. And I asked, will you help me? And she said, yeah, I can help you. Read this book, write these journal entries, write down your story, and you need to get some kind of spiritual practice. I don't care what it is. If it's Jewish stuff, if it's Buddhist stuff, if it's Christian stuff, whatever feels good, do more of that. So I started going back to temple. I hadn't been for 20 years, but it was what I grew up with. At first, it made me uncomfortable, but the more I did it, the more I saw that there was something to this God thing. As I'm going through this extremely painful spiritual transformation, a friend of mine invited me to see a play of the Screw Tape Letters. And I opened up the program, what's this about? And the characters are God, the devil. It's like, what? What is this? What am I about to watch? It hit me so deeply. I had been on this spiritual journey for a year at this point. And when I saw this play of the Screw Tape Letters with Max McLean, it blew me away. It's like resonating within me so powerfully that I had to at least consider the option of Christianity, which as a former atheist Jew is the most uncomfortable, ridiculous thing to consider. I knew that God was the answer, and I wasn't quite getting it with the Judaism, the yoga, and all of those things. There was something else that I wanted. I didn't have like a moment where I became a Christian, but I remember one morning getting ready for work. My whole life was so different than it had been just a few years ago. I couldn't believe the person I was becoming. And somehow this thought occurred to me that if someone asked, are you a Christian? I'd have to say yes at this point. I'm a Christian now, I believe in Jesus. And I found a church in Los Angeles, and I walk in and I see this guy across the room. We're immediately attracted to each other, but I was not ready yet to date. So for a while, we were in this community group together where we would read the Bible together, we would pray for each other. I even told this group when I was gonna go make amends to my ex-husband. I met him in person and took ownership and responsibility for my part in everything, and apologized for all of the harm that I had caused him. God had transformed me, and it was like that chapter of my life came to a close, and then I was ready to date my new husband. I'm married to a wonderful man who loves Jesus more than he loves me, and we have 2 amazing children together, and I never thought any of this was possible for me. I thought when I had thought, well, that's it, I ruined my chance at happiness. I'm never gonna have any of that. And then when I became a Christian, I thought, what nice Christian guy is gonna want these damaged goods? A divorced, adulterous, former atheist Jew covered in tattoos. And God was like, don't worry, honey, I've got this total weirdo picked out for you. This other Christian guy who's also covered in tattoos and has plugs in his earlobes. Our God is the God of a million second chances, and he can work with anything as long as you give it to him. I am satisfied in God unlike anything in this whole world can ever and will ever satisfy me. I can never get it from another person. I can't get it from my status. I can't get it from money. I can't get it from how I look. I can't get it from anything. But with God, I am fully satisfied. There were a few years when I really did step away from politics.
Now, is that not amazing? Just amazing. We have the answer. The answer isn't live in peace, be sweet. You do what feels right. What if they had told her that? She'd have never found Jesus. She'd still be doing yoga and trying to figure out why these tattoos won't come off. I don't know. We have the answer. It creates division. It is difficult, but it's your only job. Your only job. That's just beautiful. You got Isaac up there. We gotta go. Okay, conclusion. The fallen supernatural world has a counterfeit to every truth of God. This is what we're going to build over the next few weeks. This is going to be a chart, counterfeit versus truth. The counterfeit is pawn and prize. The supernatural world sees humanity as both the pawn that they can manipulate and ultimately the prize. If you die in your sins, you're in the realm of the dead. The unseen realm sees you as the pawn and the prize, But God sees you. The truth is, you're the tool and the weapon to counterbalance this side. So the first part of the chart, the counterfeit, is you're the pawn and the prize in this game. But the truth is, you're actually the tool and the weapon. And then each week, as we hit these various topics, from Black Lives Matter to whatever, how we build these topics, we're going to show you the counterfeit. Well, it's right here. We're going to explain the issue, which is the counterfeit. We're going to show you what the counterfeit is. Then we're going to explain the relevant scriptures. This is the truth. So we got the counterfeit, the truth, and then we're going to say, okay, how we're going to build the model of the imager. What does the imager look like? Well, it looks like Jonathan Isaac. For today, it looks like Jonathan Isaac, and it looks like, what was her name?
Adrian Johnson.
Adrian Johnson. That's what the imager looks like. So we're going to build this each week. Countertop, counterfeit, truth, and what that imager looks like. Okay.
My thing is that we are defeated as Christians, and we walk around thinking we are just offering one of many options. And this, tattooed purple spiked hair girl has got it all figured out, and she's living her atheist life, and it's really perfect and fulfilling her, and she's happy, and we should live in peace and love. That's not it. They are struggling. You know what's behind that facade. The homosexuals who say, I'm finally happy because I'm out of the closet and I love my partner and we just want to live in peace. They're struggling. They have the conscience. They are imagers of God too. We have to look at them that way. We have the answer. We have the answer to their struggles, and we are too timid and shy and defeated to share it, And
we're actually told that you're hateful, unloving, and really anti-God if you do share the truth.
Right.
It's amazing how perverted the message is.
It's the
now.
counterfeit. It's the
It is.
counterfeit.
That
message.
counterfeit is hardcore built into our culture, and you have to fight against it in your own mind.
And what does Jesus say?
Jump in there, I see it.
I didn't come for peace. I came to bring the sword. The sword. This is the sword, right? I came to bring the sword to the world, not peace, not love. I'm going to divide you in your own household, even.
It's a different picture.
It's a whole different picture. What does Jesus say? And it's not the New Testament Christian, all peace and love and welcome everybody. No, Jesus said, I came to
Our
divide.
God is
Sorry.
the God of, I'm sorry.
She's off preaching. Jump in there.
It's just, you're saying it's like, as far as we have the answers, like, a lot of these people, they are adamant they don't want our answer, but we know the fact that they have this size hole in their heart. Even if they're lying to themselves, their soul is looking for that answer, even if they won't admit it themselves. So
It's kind of like what she was saying. A lot of times, those that are the most violent, using that term, not really, most adamant, pushing the other direction is because they're struggling with that hole. The very rate you look at them and think, this person's hardcore, they will never become a Christian. It's the opposite. They're struggling so much internally that they portray it as, I'm big time on this side, when they're really fighting inwardly.
that's why all atheists are always so angry.
Yeah, that's why they're angry. That's why the other side's angry. We operate in love, but we're not actually characterized as love.
I want to just give a brief example of you in business something that
I don't know what she's saying here. It worries me.
I won't get into the details of it, but it was a fight in business, and he and his partner were fighting and arguing, and we should do this and we should do that, like against someone else. And Joel came back around, and he to his partner brought Galatians, brought the spirit.
Fruit of the Spirit.
Fruit of the Spirit. Thank you. I was losing the fruit. Yes. Fruit of the Spirit. And he said, this right here does not allow me to act in this way.
Peace, joy, love, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. And literally, we just went through each one of those. And what we're talking about is in none of those, which makes it wrong.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our point, is speaking the truth, spirit-led, in love, and looking at that other person and knowing what they're saying may not be what's going on in their hearts, and they have a God-sized hole in their heart. So I'll just pray for you. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this time and for these individuals here who all have a realm of influence, Lord. It may not be an NBA player, it may not be a national organization, but Lord, we have our own influence, our own spheres, our own people that we encounter every day, Lord, and you have given us the message and the hope to share with a world with God-sized holes in their hearts, Lord. Help us to be sensitive, make us sensitive, help us to daily remember that we are just tent makers in our jobs, but we have a bigger task for you in the unseen realm. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, now we're going home and taking a nap. Actually, we're going to city church.
If y'all do decide to come, y'all